I'm Hannah Mutron, and I wanted to talk a little bit about my capstone project for my master's in information science at UT Austin, and also a part of, work that I've been doing in collaboration with UT Libraries as a research assistant here. And so I'll start with the environment. Um, and kind of why I had this idea. So UT Libraries has a chat service. It's called Ask a Librarian. It is available to all EID holders, so students, faculty members, other members of the community. Um, and people can go there and ask questions about, anything really, but typically they will ask questions about research, or they'll ask general kind of library questions like, how do I print something? Or, there's this problem with my account, or, you know, even complaints like it's loud in here, or the you know printer is out of paper or something. And the library chat is available during the hours when there are librarians on hand to staff it. It's not available overnight, and it's not available, for certainly overnight on the weekend, but also not full days on the weekend, and it's not available on some holidays, and it's kind of more lightly staffed during certain times of the year than others. So the thought that I had was that we could create a chatbot, that was a little bit better than your average chatbot, um, that could fill in for those times when there was not a librarian available. Um, and so I started this project with chat logs from the libraries, and I did analysis of those using Python, and then I also um, did some sort of topic analysis on them to categorize the questions that people were asking. And so what I figured out is that most of the questions are about research, or like general library questions. That hits about 80% of the questions from the chat. And so that's like room reservations and printing again. And research questions are like, help with researching a specific topic, could be citation help, could be, oh, like what, is this database still available? Or I'm looking for some specific thing. So I did that, and I figured out, kind of the basics of what people were asking about and what the information needs would be for something like this. And then I talked to librarians who were staffing the service, and I wanted to ask them about, how the current Ask a Librarian chat service works, in terms of tone, and how do they respond, and how do they think about kind of the role of the service in the university. And then like, what do they think about a chatbot? You know, what they think it could do, kind of the possibilities for it, but also the things that sort of scare them or that they don't want to see from it. And one of the big things that came out of that, there were a lot of things, and I'm very grateful for the time and expertise that they shared with me. But one of the things that came out of that was that what they really don't want is for a chatbot to do anything. They want it to be scoped to kind of like the library's purposes and role within the larger community. So they don't want it, definitely they don't want it to be able to, do students' homework for them or things like that. But they also, I think kind of want to make sure, and this is another thing with scoping, they want to make absolutely sure that the information given is correct. And that it doesn't like send students on some kind of a wild goose chase for resources that don't exist, for instance. Um, so I decided to use Voiceflow because it is sort of a mixture of old-fashioned chatbot with like the conversation design and AI, like we know it now, LLMs, um, where you can have different steps that are AI steps. And so you can call, they have Claude models and GPT models in here. So you can call those and give a prompt and so have an AI capability, but within one step in your design. So there's a lot of control. Yeah, I also liked the UI. I think it's pretty easy to use once you kind of get the hang of it. So, and I do just want to also mention that while I was doing this project, I was also looking at some of our requirements, even for this demo, but definitely requirements for the future, with the, you know, industry kind of ethical standards. And I looked mostly at the ALA Code of Ethics, and then also the Microsoft's HAX guidelines, to kind of help me figure out how I should be planning for things. And so I will show in other videos how exactly it works when it's running. But as you can see, there's kind of a, right now for test users even, there's kind of a disclosure of, what it is and that I might see their conversations, though there's no information about them specifically. But I just want to show kind of how it works in general. So there are AI steps here. There's a response AI and there's a set AI. The response AI is like what you would think of when you think about a typical call to an LLM. You have a prompt. These are variables that you can set at different stages, and it looks like this. Capture user reply to, and then you have a variable name, and then it captures that, that response. And then I have temperature set pretty low. I want it to be like, not too creative for me. I personally found that Claude 3 Sonnet does pretty well. And I like it. You can set your tokens, you have your system message. I have found, and this, I know this looks really long, but I have found that it's much more effective to have information resources in the system message than it is to have them in the knowledge base. When I do it like this, it returns correct information every time. And I basically, one other thing that I will mention is that I really am thinking about this, and this did come from interviews as well, from my like interpretation kind of what they wanted, the librarians. I think of it kind of as like um like a conduit between the resources that we have and um the user. So it is an interface of sorts. It's a conversational interface. And so I have very specifically here that what I want it to do is actually not answer the question at all. but to direct the user to resources. So the website has a bunch of pages with information, and those are resources. We have a bunch of databases, a bunch of, books and articles and all kinds of stuff, libguides. And then we have, experts in the libraries. We have subject area experts. And so I have them in here as well. I have, um, who to go to if you're interested in architectural records or in sociology or whatever. So that is a response AI. A set AI example, I have one over here in research assistance. And it looks like this. You can see for this set AI, I'm using, well, you can't see there, but I'm using Claude again. I guess I have the temperature a little bit higher here because I do want it to be sort of, return different responses every time because I don't want it to have all the same topics. This is a set AI for setting sort of narrowed down topic ideas for students if they put in a sort of broad topic. So here I've given an example of F. Scott Fitzgerald, and then the AI is supposed to suggest a few topics that could be interesting to the user. And then there is a way for them to say, oh, I don't like those, I want more, or you've misunderstood what I wanted or whatever later in the flow. But in this step, what it does is it just returns that information to a variable. And then it actually prints out that variable for the user in the next step. And then they choose one of the buttons here, over here. They choose one of the buttons for the topic area that they want to continue with, and then they are given a bunch of resources. So I'll show that later. And the last thing, I guess, so there are just regular text steps, which are kind of like printing out information. There's obviously these listen steps. I've mentioned the buttons. And there's also like the capture. And there's a lot more to explore. I just want to also point out the mental health flow, which is an intent. An intent is kind of like when the chatbot is kind of like listening at different steps. You can set it so that it listens for user utterances that set off some kind of that trigger something. And in this case, I had a couple of different points have a flow that kind of deals with if a user is saying something concerning. So I thought that anything that the students are kind of like communicating with at the school should be able to handle or pick up on student distress. So if it hears things that are distressing, like I'm depressed, or, I can't sleep and I'm too stressed out by school or something like that, then it gives some mental health resources that we have on campus. So I think that's all that I'm going to talk about right now. So thank you so much.